Week 2 of training for the Berlin Marathon is well underway, so I thought I would take a moment to walk you through what kind of my rough 18-week training plan looks like preparing for this marathon. Cheers, y'all. How's it going? Thank you for joining me for another training update. This one focusing specifically on my overall plan for tackling the Berlin Marathon and my hopes to hit a new PR when I take on that race in September. If you haven't watched the past videos, you can go back and check those out, but I will be running using a plan from the Daniels running formula, specifically the 2Q marathon training plan. And that Q stands for quality workout. The main idea behind the 2Q plan is that you are running 2 quality workouts every single week and then filling in the rest of your goal mileage with just easy runs. So that's the basic formula. I'll walk you through what that looks like now that I've actually mapped out more specifically what the week by week plan is going to look like over those 18 weeks. But that is the main idea. It's those 2 quality workouts that you're fitting in each week, one midway through the week, like a Wednesday or Thursday, and then one on the weekend on the Saturday or Sunday. One unique thing to note about this plan that's gonna be new to me for this specific training plan is that because you have those 2 quality workouts that are higher mileage and higher intensity, the overall long run isn't necessarily as long as some traditional plans I'm used to. Most of the plans I've done in the past, you sort of have your moderate distance runs throughout the week, and then you're building up that long run on the weekend, kind of systematically working towards that 20 or 22 mile mark, preparing for the marathon distance. This plan, again, since you're doing 2 longer distance runs with higher intensity throughout the week, you're not building up that long run as quickly or as substantially. So you'll see when I show the plan, it doesn't necessarily have that 20-mile run because it is prioritizing intensity and speed work and kind of cumulative fatigue over just hitting those specific distance marks. That being said, I do plan on making some minor adjustments to sort of the recommended 2Q plan to better suit my specific fitness level, my goals, etc., catering it a little bit more to my ability. And I think that is a very important thing to note, particularly for newer marathon runners as you're looking at plans to follow online. Marathon plans are great. They give you structure and give you kind of a prescribed plan to follow throughout training, but it is so important to not hold yourself to that exact plan. You need to make adjustments as needed. You need to be realistic about where you're at with your fitness before just diving into those plans. So for me specifically, 2 of the changes that I'm gonna make, the first is that I'm actually skipping the second Q for the first 6 weeks. I just don't think I'm at a place where I can manage 2 long distance, high intensity runs each week. I feel like that is a great way to get myself an overuse injury. So I'm gonna focus instead throughout those 6 weeks on just building up the distance on that midweek run to get to where I wanna be to start beginning those more intense quality workouts towards the later part of the training plan. So skipping the 2 Qs for the first 6 weeks of the plan. The second change I'm going to make is I am a person who likes to do like a 20 or 22 mile run before the marathon. Mentally, I feel like that's just a big win for me. It's a big confidence booster heading into the marathon. And I think a huge part of marathon training obviously is the physical, but you need the mental piece as well. So I will likely alter one of the later weeks, probably when there's like a 16 or 17 mile run recommended. I'll tweak that weekly plan, maybe lower the mileage throughout the week so that I can get in that 20-mile run again, just for the confidence boost to be able to do it. I haven't run the marathon in quite a while. It's gonna be well over a year since my last marathon, so I just think that's a confidence booster I need before I head on to the race. So all of that being said, let's take a look at what the plan actually looks like. And the first thing that you are presented with is basically just the list of quality workouts that are prescribed to you. I mentioned the plan is basically just made up of these quality workouts, and then you fill in the rest of the weekly mileage with just easy runs. So you look at where your total mileage is gonna be after the prescribed quality workouts, and then you just compare that to what your goal weekly mileage should be and schedule some runs throughout the week, again, focusing on easy miles for those other runs, saving the intensity and that up tempo for those quality workouts. So this is the list of quality workouts you are presented with. Again, as I mentioned, I obviously am skipping those first 6 weeks of quality workouts just to hopefully prepare my legs to take on the brunt of that work towards the later portions of this training plan. Some other things to note, you'll notice those workouts that are in bold. So those are workouts that in the book it says like, hey, if you get to these workouts and you are feeling particularly fatigued, it's okay to just swap out this quality workout for another easy run as well. So let's say this first one, this one that was actually this past weekend with all the tempo miles, etc. It was one of the bolded workouts. So if on Sunday I was like, you know what, my legs just really aren't feeling it for this, they're still a little bit tired from the workouts through the rest of the week, that was gonna be an 11, 12 mile run. I'm just gonna do those as easy miles instead of doing the tempo paces, etc. So this is what the quality workouts look like. I'll go over what all of the letters and etc. mean throughout a little bit later, but those are just the different paces that you're gonna focus on. So that's what the total plan looks like. So basically I took that and plugged it into what does the actual calendar look like? And you'll see I divided this into 3 phases. One, because that just helps me mentally break up the training, and it gives me it breaks up the training in terms of goals to look forward to. So like right now, I am just very excited to get through phase 1 to get to phase 2 when I can start building in those second quality workouts. That'll be a big milestone for me, a big way to celebrate. For me personally, that's just something that helps motivate me through training, figuring out those smaller benchmarks I can set for myself that I can celebrate after accomplishing. Again, 18 weeks is a long time. September, the end of September is quite a ways away. So giving these sort of small victories throughout training just gives me something to look forward to, and again, just helps with that motivation throughout. The other helpful piece as well, as I'll go over this a little bit more in the pacing, but Daniels recommends all of your paces is based on something called VDOT. If you don't know what that is, there's no way I'm gonna be able to explain it to you. I would recommend purchasing the book. I'll go ahead and link to it below. It's basically just similar to things like VO2 max, etc. It's just a way to measure your fitness based off past race results. So you look at a realistic race, a realistic past performance, preferably one that's more recent. So I'm using the last marathon that I ran to figure out what your sort of current fitness level is. You use that to figure out what your starting pace is gonna be, and then you can slowly increase that sort of every 6 weeks. I am lucky in that my current VDOT number, my current recommended paces are only 2 levels away from what my time goal is for the Berlin Marathon. And that's sort of the recommendation in the Daniels book, is you can kind of jump up 1 level, 1 VDOT every 6 weeks. So I'm excited that that sort of works out for me, but that's something that I will also be looking forward to each phase, is that my goal paces will get slightly faster after each successful completion of one of these phases. So I would say this is likely going to change pretty significantly, not in terms of overall mileage and numbers, but maybe just like where the runs are, and probably realistically the mileage that I'm doing on those lighter weeks. So wherever you see the 3 or 4 mile just sort of easy runs, there's a good chance that I will probably dial up, especially the 3 mile runs, as I get more comfortable in training, as my legs start to wake up and start to get used to the brunt, to the stress that they'll be under during marathon training. I'll probably increase that and possibly even dial up the frequency of running. We'll see how many rest days I feel like I need as we get deeper into training. But this again was just to give myself sort of that long-term view, so I have an idea of what I can look forward to throughout the summer. Other thing to note, Daniels recommends doing the second quality workout on Wednesdays, keeping that Q1 run on whatever day the race is. So the Berlin Marathon will be on a Sunday. I have those scheduled for Sunday. Based on whatever our weekend plans are, there's a good chance that those long runs may change Sunday to Saturday, again, just based on what the plans are. The other big thing is based on my summer work schedule. I believe I'll be working remote on Thursdays, so I will likely shift those Q2s to Thursday, because it's gonna be a lot harder to run a 12 to 14 mile workout before I have to commute an hour and a half into the office, as opposed to if I'm working from home, we'll have much more time to fit in those workouts. So there is a lot of flexibility, but again, this just gives me an idea of what I have to look forward to, what I can prepare for. Ideally, I would like to get into like the 40 to 45 miles per week range and just kind of hang there. I find that that's when I'm most comfortable and also where I just feel feel really efficient in my running before I start to experience too much fatigue. I would also just really like to get there and stay at that level for longer to sort of build my base at that level. So as I transition from this block of training, hopefully my weekly mileage will be at a point where I can continue to build even further for the next race. This is a marathon I'm very excited about, certainly excited to hopefully PR in this race. But again, thinking long term, there's a lot of work I need to do to get my marathon time where I would like it to be. So these 18 weeks are phase one of a longer term plan for my overall marathon performance. So that's the overall sort of 18-week view. But now let's look at some specific pacing goals throughout training. So like I mentioned, I have this split into the 3 phases, weeks 18 to 13, weeks 13 to 7, and weeks 6 to 1, working backwards, obviously. So column B is phase 1, C is phase 2, D is phase 3, and that number in the parentheses in that second row is my V dot for those different phases of training. So 43 is where I'm evaluated now, 44 and 45 is where I hope to go. 45 specifically is what would fall under sort of my goal pace for the marathon. And then in column A, you can see what the different paces mean corresponding to those letters you saw in the quality plan. So I'll go back to that to show you. But E is that easy pace, M is your goal marathon pace, T threshold, I interval, R repetition, so getting progressively faster. My goal for the Berlin Marathon is hopefully to break 3:30. My last performance was just over 3:37, so I feel like it is certainly an achievable goal, although again, I am very well removed from road races and specifically from the marathon distance. So I want to make sure I'm putting in the work and taking the time to just build up the strength that I need to continue to be successful in the long term. And again, if we look at the weekly workouts, you can kind of see some examples of how this will work. So the workout that I just did this past weekend was a ton of fun. It ended up being a little over 11 miles, but you start with 2 easy miles, then 2 repetitions of 1 threshold mile with 1 minute rest, do that 2 times, then 30 minutes at an easy pace, and then another 2 repetitions of 1 threshold mile with 1 minute rests, and then closing it out with 2 easy miles. So just over 11 miles there. I am really enjoying these workouts, the structure of the quality workouts. It makes the long runs go by a lot more quickly because again, it's not just logging consistent mileage. It's not just going out for an 11-mile run, but instead it's broken up into all of these different intervals. There certainly are some longer duration easy runs. So you can see this coming weekend, I have just a 90 to 110 minute easy run. But for the most part, the quality workouts are broken up into these varying paces, which again, I think just makes the workouts more fun. It's great to get some speed into my legs. And I am just really looking forward to hopefully how it will pay off on race day. Fingers crossed, everything goes according to plan. I think it is certainly an ambitious goal for myself. Not necessarily the time goal, but the training plan. Again, I've never done anything like this before. And that second quality workout is particularly what I wouldn't say I'm nervous about. I just know it's gonna take a lot of discipline to make sure that I'm getting in those usually like 10 to 13, 14 mile runs in midway through the week. That's something I've never done before. I think will be a challenge. I'm hoping that given kind of a lighter workload in the summer might be easier to squeeze in. And then hopefully by the time fall rolls around, I will have a good routine implemented, good enough routine implemented that I can continue pushing that throughout the beginning of the fall semester. So that's the plan. That's the 18-week 2Q marathon training plan according to the Daniels running formula with some minor personal tweaks for myself. If you'd like to follow along every step of the way, first and foremost, I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up. That just helps other folks find the content. And I hope you'll subscribe to the channel if you don't already. That way you can follow along with all of the training updates throughout this process. I've got a playlist already where I'll continue to add any training updates as I prepare for the Berlin Marathon, whether those are weekly training updates, features of specific workouts, etc. I'm looking forward to putting together some exciting content. There is a long road ahead of me, but I could not be more excited for the challenge and just to embrace the process. So thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.